Hello guys, my name is JP, and like a light from the heaven, come down in this beam. It's annoying. When did it? I don't remember ever having a heartbeat before putting it up in this world anyways. Could have sworn it was just a nice, quiet little beamy thing. So I started building this baseball shaped thing out here and realized this is nowhere near enough space. So I am definitely going to have to scrap this. I'll have to get the silk touch pick and pick up all the stones so it doesn't just go to waste. Don't make noises to me. And find a bigger spot. Probably use that other big spot like I mentioned. Let's see. I think I want to go get more of this ice. I don't know why I put a block of ice here. Obviously a weird place to put a block of ice. So I need to grab the silk touch pick and the map. The map so I don't go too far, because I know where one is, kind of. There are two ice spikes biomes that I know of. Like off the top of my head, kind of. And they're roughly in the same distance. This dog is... Yeah, I give it the extra meat. I need to find the map. I don't know what I did with it. I don't think it's in the ender chest. Maybe it is. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's it. Let's see. In that far right bottom corner, that light blue that's on top of the water, that's ice. So I need to go all the way over there. I guess the best bet would be to go straight down and take a boat across. That'll be a little bit faster than walking straight across. I have torches, although I don't really need any. What I need is my silk touch pick. I don't need the fortune pick, so I can leave that one behind. Shouldn't need the water bucket. Everything else is standard, so I'll keep that. Food. I think I have a boat still. And I can put this in the offhand. Keep map going. And we're off. So my talking point for today, this, I don't think it'll end up being two-part, but it might. Just in that, oh yeah, I can talk. Especially after the past few days. I'm on my own this week. The girlfriend is down in Florida doing things. I don't really know what. And I've been watching, like, ooh, that was a noise. I've been watching crazy movies, like a crazy amount of movies. Ooh, I think I just jumped over a hole. Mostly I've been watching movies to try to get to seeing if I can criticize, not so much criticize, but analyze them in a sort of productive way. Because what I intend to, what I might try to go back to college for, is film and TV production. Specifically, I'd like to try to get into writing. So obviously, I'd have to take writing classes first, and then shift that over to film and TV. But should be pretty good. I should be able to manage that. I mean, I have written before. It's usually journalism style, though. I've done a few news articles and opinion pieces for like online publications. So I'm not terrible with writing. I like that. I don't have that stupid stamina bar with this one. Just swing to my heart's content, old school. So yeah, I can write. I'd like to learn how to specifically apply that to script writing, screenplay writing, stuff like that. Okay, here's the water. Now I'm carrying all this extra crap. And away we go. I'm glad they fixed it again. I think for a while it was you had to hold left and right to go forward, and that was stupid. Doesn't seem to be that way anymore. But sure. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about is prequels and sequels. I'm gonna go with the example I know. Hey, it's an underwater ship thing right there. It's pretty obvious. I'm gonna go with what I know of that is the biggest example that is still going. It's like they're still making movies, everything's still going. Is Star Wars. I mean, that's very obviously still going. And of course, it is also one of the few examples that has both sequels, several sequels, and several prequels. So yeah, this will be a good example of what I'm trying to talk about. So I think I swim faster than this with the dolphins. But with prequels, so obviously the most basic part of a story is characters that you can not so much relate with, because relate is a bit of a stretch, but characters that you can become invested in. Obviously, the original trilogy had that pretty strong. There are characters now that would be kind of cliched, but they were very original at the time. The lights on the water. And then in 1999 came the prequels. Starting with Phantom Menace, that train wreck. Don't get me wrong, I hold special admiration in my heart for the prequels. Not so much for Episode 1. Jar Jar Binks, that's all I have to say. But the point is, when you make characters good enough where people want to become invested in them, they inevitably want to know their backstory. Especially in something like Star Wars, where by the time you meet any of these characters, they're most of the way. I mean, Luke was a kid, but he was clearly at least a teenager. Uh, Darth Vader was some huge, unknown respirator robot man. Wish I'd come out here at night. Should have brought a bed. If I kill some sheep, I can make a bed. Oh, God. But yeah, there were enough fairly mysterious characters there to make an entire trilogy just based on the backstory, basically, of just Darth Vader. So that's what... That is definitely what the prequel trilogy is about. Doesn't seem to be raining here. It's fine by me. The prequel trilogy is literally just the origins of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. And in that regard, they work quite well. The style it went with, sometimes it's a little bit questionable. It was a bit over the top and almost Shakespearean in its drama, especially with some of the dialogue. But otherwise, I mean, the story is solid. The overall story of the three movies. It explored the backgrounds of Anakin Skywalker, and to a lesser extent, but although not entirely, Obi-Wan Kenobi, what he had to deal with, how he actually became a Sith Lord, how what seemed like a simple trade dispute at the beginning of the first movie became a entire galactic war with the Clone Wars. And then, of course, Luke and Leia's origin as Anakin's kids, who get sent off. The joke for Luke being on Tatooine is that Anakin doesn't like sand. It's rough, coarse, irritating, and it gets everywhere. There are many memes for the prequel trilogy, because the dialogue can be that hilarious at times. But yeah, so far in the regard of just story and intended to tell, the characters that it wished to develop a little bit further, the origins it wanted to get into, the prequel trilogy did just fine. They were certainly original in how they went about doing what they did. They were straight up Star Wars. You can't look at episode 1 and be like, oh, this is just like some other movie. No, it's its own movie, same as episode 2, and then episode 3. It can be argued that they are influenced, well, like I said, some Shakespearean works and such, but you'd be pushing it considering it's space wizards and laser swords and a lot of other crazy stuff. So then, oh God, when did episode 3 come out? 2004? 2003, 2004? I don't even remember. But now, some years later, of course, there is the sequel trilogy. The difference here is that the original creator and arguably the main, the head writer, the guy who created this whole story, the driving force of everything, George Lucas, sold studio, the movies, the rights, everything to Disney, and had little to nothing to do with any of the new sequels. So much like the point of prequels, where the point is to explore the background of something from the original movies, the sequels would be to explore what happens after. At least usually. Of course, these days, a lot of sequels are literally just remakes or reboots, have little to nothing to do with the source material other than, like, it happened. And so the logical conclusion since the end of the original trilogy is it blew up the second Death Star. The Emperor's dead, Darth Vader's dead, Lucas the Last Jedi. Happy ending. Happy ending. Logical conclusion to that would be rebuilding the Republic, how these characters fit in with that, what they go on to do. And where they go in their lives. Now, you do get some of that in the first sequel, Force Awakens. Solo dies. Okay. In the second sequel, Last Jedi, Luke dies. And now Carrie Fisher died before. I think she died before the last one, Last Jedi, was finished. Or maybe she died before it was released. I'm not sure which is correct. But she's dead, so she's definitely not going to be in any more movies, except as, like, CGI. So, I mean, who are you going to kill off next? R2 and C-3PO and Chewbacca, and then that's it. You've taken care of the entire main cast. So while the storyline has been continued in that, okay, the Empire is defeated, but a new bad guys have taken the place, and they're what you have to deal with now. Of course, there's going to be some new characters, but so far, the current characters, the ones who were compelling enough to want to make a prequel trilogy for, and many other derivative works. Like, there were a lot of video games, comics, books, many other things. Suddenly, none of those characters are around at all. It's over. So yes, while the story continues, the new evil, people got to deal with it. It is no longer the original characters who are going to be dealing with it. None of them. So in this regard, it almost feels like the trilogies are being treated like some of the cartoons. The example I can think of is there's a cartoon that just, I don't know when to say it just ended, but it's recently ended. Star Wars Rebels, not Rebellion, Rebels. And it was a completely different set of characters. A Jedi who escaped Order 66 from Episode 3. A Force-sensitive kid, and just a crew of people who basically go around and mess shit up for the Empire. And because it is done in such a way where you don't come into that expecting the old characters, because I mean, there's Obi-Wan Kenobi in it in a couple little parts. Yoda is in like a Force vision, and there's some other little stuff like that. Some other little references. So of course they have to reference the stuff that happened in the movies for it to make any sense. But for the most part, it is its own thing. But because you don't expect the original characters or any of the main characters to be in it to begin with, it works in its own regard. But the point there is that the sequels for Star Wars, this entire new trilogy, seems to be treated like a cartoon, where the reason you want to watch it, would ever want to watch it, is because it fills in part of the story that logically makes sense. With the original trilogy, okay, Empire, bad guys, they're defeated. Good stuff. Prequel trilogy, how did the bad guys become bad guys? Where'd they come from? What happened to all the good guys? Where'd they go? What the hell's going on? Fills that role perfectly. Sequel trilogy, okay, what happens to the good guys now? Well, they die. That's about what you're getting out of the sequels. What happened to the bad guys? Well, they got replaced with new bad guys. And what's going to happen? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. As of, I think, this year, 2019, the third of these movies is going to come out. And as of right now, there are a lot of missing. Like, so far, it doesn't really make sense. Now, taken as their own, completely own, 5 stacks. I ended up with some blue ice. That's blank. I'll just head back. This is already going to end up being kind of long. And taken as its own thing, I'm going to cut straight back there. It might work a little better. Can I put the compass there? No. That would make too much sense. So I'm following the compass, I don't need them. But yeah, the sequel trilogy taken as its own thing, where if you did not come in expecting the original characters, no problem. The story is sound enough. I mean, there are some significant plot holes here and there, and some strange dead ends, and some even stranger, completely pointless bits, but for the most part, they're getting the job done with telling a a reaching story of what happens after the Empire falls. Not the most coherent story, but it works. What they are failing at is what happens to the characters after the original trilogy. Now, I get that it makes some sense that it wouldn't be completely filled in, just like the prequel trilogy ends when Luke and Leia are born, basically. So there's a good 15, 20-year gap in there, at least. I had the number at one point. Something like it's something like 20 years in between the prequel and original trilogy. So it makes sense that there would be at least that gap between original and sequels. The thing is, the original trilogy kind of made it out so that, well, Luke's life is supposed to have been boring and uneventful until Saul came along. And some of Leia's, there's another one of those ships. Some of Leia's stuff is filled in sort of through basic knowledge. It definitely makes a little bit more sense with the end of the prequels. One of the senators adopts her, air quotes, and raises her as his own. Bail Organa from the prequel trilogy, and that's how she ends up there and ends up being a princess and this and that. So it's not completely left out. Han Solo is mysterious, supposed to be mysterious. They messed up with that Solo movie, just in that nothing in that movie is of any consequence. Doesn't matter. Never mattered. Oh, that's why I had the map up, so I could fill it in. Oh, now I have a stupid hole. Nice job. Not that far, though. And the sequels aren't really doing any of that. The first one, well, no, the second one did a little bit better job of it. Of filling in sort of what happened to Luke between the trilogies. He decided to open an academy, shit went south, everybody died, and he ran off and decided to give up on life for some reason. So that's his deal. Not the best story, but like I said, for the sake of completing a story, it works. Now, what you don't get is any of what happened to Leia, any of what happened to Han Solo, any of what happened to any of them. They just kind of show up in these new characters' lives, do what they're gonna do, and then just die off like flies. So we're left with new characters who are a little less than compelling. Like right now, while you have to make a third movie to finish out the story arc of these characters, you'd be very hard pressed to find something to even try to explore in them beyond that. Like, say for some reason there was going to be an episode 10. I would assume it would have to be someone or something else or a different place or time, because the current one isn't going so great. Okay, we made it. All the ice. Yeah, but therein lies my point, 30 minutes later, is that what drives the ability to make prequels and sequels and such like this is the ability to, and the presence of, characters who are compelling enough to want to continue to learn something about them. Whether it be what happened before, what happened after. Or anywhere in between. You have a whole universe and an entire timeline you can explore. I mean, the world is your oyster there. You can do whatever you want. I'm making spider noises. Oop, it died. And without the presence of those characters, you don't really have much to go on. It's like, imagine if episode 7 for Star Wars, instead of it being, okay, the Empire fell, and a new enemy has taken its place, of course, and a new generation led by the old one has to take it on. That's what this story is. If instead it was the story of, I can't even think of anything so irrelevant than what they did. I mean, at least what they did makes sense from a story perspective. Imagine if it was instead just Wookiees. Or, since they already exist in the world, say it was what happens to Jar Jar Binks during all of the previous original trilogy when he was not present in, and what he's doing now that the Empire has fallen. Imagine if it was that instead. No, he's not a compelling character that you want to know more about. There may or may not be a theory that he was a Sith Lord and pulled the strings in the whole thing, but it's neither here nor there. The point is, without the original characters driving a story that you would want to see, there is no Star Wars. And now that all the original characters are dead, there is only questionable Star Wars remaining. And that's my comparison there for it being more like a cartoon series. Because a cartoon series, you already absolutely expect the main characters when it's established that they're not there. This is established that they're there, so why aren't they there? Here's a bullshit excuse and some new characters. But anyways, that's what we're left with. That said, I do absolutely want to see what happens to Kylo Ren. I want to watch him fucking apparently roid rage out some more and blow some shit up. I don't even know what's gonna happen. Nobody knows. But yeah. Not my favorite, but I will still watch it in the hopes that the storyline is properly finished. Like, at this point, if we don't find out that if we don't find out who Rey's parents are, at least after establishing that so hard in the first one, and then blowing it off in the second one, I'm going to be upset. That's the only thing that'll kind of piss me off from this sequel trilogy. But that'll do it for today. My name is JP. I've talked too much. I'm gonna go eat or drink or something. I don't know. That'll do it for today. I'll see you next time.